Good evening. We are so happy to be here tonight because tonight we have a songstress of songstresses. We've got a writer of writers. We've got a lyricist of lyricists. We've got a storyteller consummate. We have Queen Dudu Manhenga in the house tonight, and she's going to talk books with us. Hi, Dudu. How are you?
Hey, Selena, how are you? Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me.
We are so excited to have you. It really feels like we've got royalty on the set tonight. So I, too, have my own head wrap on in honor of the Queen herself. As is my custom, I always start every live show with a quote from an African author. And as I told you, this quote makes me think of you. And now that I've spent the afternoon reading your poems, it really, I think I nailed it. So when I was reading your poems and I was listening to the rhythm of how you rhymed and how the beat of your poems and your storytelling, I was like, this is the best one. And I've been wanting to use this quote for a long time, but I haven't found the right person. But God knew that I was going to have you on the show. And so he made sure that I had it tucked away for the special day. And the quote for today is from Kamara Lay, and she is the author of The African Child. All dancers have a cumulative tendency because each beat of the tom-tom has an almost irresistible appeal. Soon, those who were just spectators would dance too. And I think that's how you've lived your life, isn't it?
Wow, that is so beautiful. And I'm so excited about that, particularly the last part, that those who hear the sound will dance to. Because for me, I've always wanted to have people into the space that I am. Even when I sing on stage, I want them to come in. And so being online like this is like a
100%. So we've got some people joining us from Facebook and from YouTube. Hi, just say hi to me and let me know where you're from. I can see that we've also got some watchers watching with us.
Yes, punishment, because I'm not feeling that.
100%. So just saying hi to all of our viewers who are joining in on YouTube and Facebook. I'm sorry we had a bit of a bounce back with the feedback there. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us. And please let us know where you are watching from. If you've got a question for Dudu, put it in the comments. She's going to answer it. She's here with us for tonight's book club. So thank you so much. And thank you so much for the body of work that you've given us so far that does draw people in and does draw people into this space and this platform that you were just talking about. So those of you who need to be reminded of who Dudu is, because I don't think there's anyone in the world who doesn't know who she is, let me just tell you a little bit about her. Dudu Manhenga is an acclaimed contributor to the rich music history of Zimbabwe. For more than 20 years, she has filled the airwaves and performed in Zimbabwe and on grand stages all over the world. And guess what, guys? COVID has not stopped her. She's still doing it from her home office on the online platforms. She's a mother, a daughter, a sister, a vibrant activist in defense of the poor and voiceless, and a strong supporter of women everywhere. She is a powerful worshiper and prayer warrior, a tiller of the earth who cultivates her gardens to share food with the poor. As a singer, lyricist, and composer, Dudu's words have reached the world through music and now through her book. And now beyond the stage, she turns to the pages of God's written word, and her voice ministers to many. Many of you may not be aware of this, but Dudu was recently ordained a pastor, and she's been pastoring for quite some time now, the last few years. She's also the author of 3 Not Chord, questions, assumptions, and conclusions, and that will be the subject of some of our discussion tonight. So that's who Dudu is. Now, about Three Not Chord. The poems in the book are about her lifetime experiences, the most difficult time when she was in prison. As a songwriter, she had been playing around with the idea of getting into poetry, creative writing, and other forms of written work, and this was her first shot before she wrote that other book. Explaining the title of the book, Three Not Chord, Dudu said it was because everything important in life is based on the number three. So these are your words. In music, every chord is comprised of three notes around which many more are built. In the Christian faith, we have the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. In anthropology, it has been concluded that man is trichotomous, the body, the soul, and the spirit. Being true to the musician I am, this book follows the three-note chord. If someone has questions, they will make assumptions, and based on those assumptions, they come to a conclusion. Questions I have heard, the assumptions I have made, and the conclusions I have come up with make up this book. So tell us, Dudu, how did you come up with this book in particular? Hey, Dudu, can you hear us?
I lost you just for a bit there, and I wasn't sure whether to carry on talking or to stop and wait for you to get me back in.
Okay, so now we're back in. So we've just told people about your book, the three-note chord, questions, assumptions, and conclusions. And we'd like you to tell them how you came up with that book, how you came up with the idea, how you started writing, and what the book is about.
So the book is really based on a season of thinking through things. I think many of us don't take time out to process what is happening to us or what is happening around us. So we end up a whole lot of bitter and angry people who are like that because they have not taken time to think through the things that they are going through. So Three Not was about me trying to process the many things that had happened to me and to come to a conclusion about things around me, my own conclusion, because many of us are saying, but we are puppets and we're just simply by others and we are not expressing what we really believe.
So I spent some of the afternoon going through the poems, especially the ones from questions, assumptions, and conclusions. And I was struck by many of the questions you ask. And in asking those questions, you're not just challenging the rest of us to think deeply. It's also like you're asking yourself. And you went way back into things in the past, but you also asked questions about ideas that we have about society. So one of them, something that I really, really enjoyed was a statement you made in the book about women. So to put it in your words exactly, because you wrote it really beautifully, you say, I agree that religion has done that. Religion ceases to focus on the love of God and turns attention on the preferences of the leader of that sect. What I do not agree with is the idea that my God is discriminatory towards me as a woman. Some have not had the opportunity to hear God's side of the story as he tells it. And then a little bit later, you talk about the Bible has fine examples of faceless negotiators, nameless diplomats, prominent leaders, and cutting-edge business people who were women. And that's how you preface one of the very first poems in Questions, Assumptions, and Conclusions. Tell us what was going on in your mind and what question in particular you were asking as you were unpacking that in the book?
Absolutely. I moved to a community which is at Goromonzi district, and this is Salimugabe Heights. And in Salimugabe Heights, I came across I think, crushed and told that they were worth nothing. And so when we started our home group in our church, on some days women wouldn't come to church because they were having their monthly period. So I started to ask, why is that so? They say, well, the Old Testament says that when you're having your flow, you must stay away from the temple because you defy the temple. So I asked one of the ladies, okay, let's go to the New Testament. Which one is the temple? And then that the temple is my body. I am the temple. And I said, so do you mean during those 3 to 7 days that you're having your monthly period, the Spirit of God departs from you because you're filthy? Because it is Him who allowed for that beautiful process to happen. There is no way that God would be so cruel to women that for 7 days you can't take part in church activities because you're having a period. So now also as a female pastor, I realize so many times maybe I will post something that is typed on a WhatsApp group or whatever, and then everyone will say, that's so powerful, man of God. Could you please explain some more? And then when I say, can I please just do a voice note so that you can hear me clearly? And then I do a voice note, and then people to comment and come to your inbox and say, oh, you are a woman. I'm like, yeah, I am. And so it seems as though there's nothing profound, nothing of profound that can ever happen and show God's plan, because women were needed everything, and he saw that everything was good. But when you go to Genesis chapter 2, verse 18, he said, it is not good when a woman. That's one of the things I was processing in my.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely the need to process womanhood, yeah. And definitely start to change the narrative. Yeah, very, very important and very, very powerful. And what I loved, about that, and what I loved about the poem is that you actually traced it throughout the Bible from Eve all the way through to New Testament characters. Very, very profound. And the way that you did that was actually quite with a little bit of humor, but really getting some strong points across. And in each woman, you left us with a picture that challenges us and makes us ask questions about, our own worth and our own value. So you definitely enjoyed that. Hey, Dudu, are you back? There we go.
I'm here. I'm here. Oh,
Awesome.
Forgive me. I stay in rural Zimbabwe, so I'm sure my network is really the one that's causing all this.
No, it's okay. But yeah, this is how we are telling you stories. So another question you ask in the book, and you go into your past, your childhood. So growing up in a blended family. And so you come, you really, really bring that to the fore. tell us a little bit about there and the questions that you were answering in that poem.
So, if you were to ask me what number I am at home, I probably would not be able to tell you. And I like how you're calling it a blended family. I'm going to indicate it. My mom had a daughter, and then I don't know what to call it, that family, their new family, I would be the firstborn. I had to take on all those responsibilities of being the firstborn. And then when my sister would visit from my mom's side, I must remember that I'm no longer the firstborn, so stop being bossy. You are not the oldest. Your older sister is here. And so I had to pull back a little bit and allow the big sister to be the big sister. And then I can't have that much access that I've always had because big sister is here. So, and then big sister would go away, and then the two would visit, and then suddenly I'm number 3. So you then realize at the end of the day, you're thinking, actually, where is the place? And when I'm so used to being the baby, because they've been older people around and holidays are over and snap, we're going back to school, I'm reminded, hey, you are the oldest child in this house, behave yourself. So I discuss that with myself to try and process, and I'm crying that I don't remember if I was ever 10 years old, because it would feel as though I have always been that old, and the clock never ticked to 10 years old, because 10 years old
We've just had a little bit of a network drop there from Dudu, and we'll get her back. But for any of you who are interested in that poem, let me just share with you that poem from the book because it's so profound, and it's called Never 10. Most of us have very interesting backgrounds, often very complicated and confusing, Dudu says. Take a peek into my interesting story. Just as I released this anthology, my story has become more interesting because the death of my father has revealed some siblings, both older and younger. I just will not go into it, and certainly will not edit this poem. And here's how the poem goes. Born fourth, being first, born third for my father, born second to my mother, could have been third, the other died. Now I am second. It confused me too. To ask who, though second, third, fourth, being first, weighed, I was never 10. I counted to 10, my turn never came. The wheel of time turned, never turned to 10. My turn never came, they all took turns. Holiday came, dreaded. Be nice to fathers too, it's their turn to see him too. Twinkling of an eye, their turn taken. Now be nice to mothers one, it's her turn to see her once. Holiday gone, my turn gone. Be first, no time to be second, third, fourth. The wheel of time turned, never returned to 10. My turn never came, they all took turns. It's always been about everyone but me. Has to understand everyone, not me. Things to be done by me. Question sometimes, why me? That's a luxury I can't afford to question. I moved, the wheel of time has turned 36 times. My turn never came. Will not turn back to 10. Wish it could. I was never 10. So, yeah. Dudu, whilst we were waiting for you to come back, we just shared your poem, I Was Never 10, that you were describing, because I think it's so powerful how you were able to make something beautiful out of what could have been traumatic. Like a lot of people do grow up in blended families, and then they struggle. And you were able to process that, and I think that's very, very cool. Just as we are waiting for Dudu to check back in, we've got some messages. Is it just me or the network is terrible today? No, the network is terrible today. And yes, guys, the network is jealous, very jealous of these very profound things coming through from Dudu tonight. But what is really amazing and interesting is that though she's in a remote area, Dudu lives with her husband and her family in a house that they've been building, which is really quite amazing, where she does quite a lot of her compassionate work with the community. So it's very much worth it where she is right now in the season, because they're being an important stopgap for people, and especially since the COVID-19 pandemic hit. Let's see if we can get Dudu back. And there we go. There she's back, guys. Yeah.
There was sending me a message to your inbox.
Yeah, I saw it just as you came on. Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. Let's just give one more chance, because we'd really like to hear a reading from her before she goes. And let's see if and there we go. There we go.
Oh wow! Thanks, thank you.
No.
I think too many of us cry for too long. I think there is always a window period for any emotion, whether it's joy or it's sadness, and many of us hide behind the past pain and or achievements of the past, and we still want to live in that past emotion. But I think that the past is always there to strengthen us and help us move forward, because we are not to stay in the past, but to move forward. And so in sharing even those private moments, like in that private thoughts, because that's like getting people right into your heart, is to say to them, I mean, there's whatever you're going through is not as complicated. Relax and move forward. Many people have been crippled and are sitting at that, in the Bible, there's a story about the beautiful gate, but some are sitting in the beautiful gate of the past, yet they're supposed to move out into much more that is out there for them. And the past is just training ground for the future. So if we're to embrace our past and look at it as training ground for the future, we will not have many bitter people like we have now.
Yeah, definitely so powerful and so profound, because you've now written a second book, a follow-up to Questions, Assumptions, and Conclusions. Not many people know this, but I am one of the treasured few that know this and got to read it. And you deal a lot with that more in that collection of poems. Tell us what people can expect from the second version, or volume 2 of 3 Not Caught.
The second volume is past, present, and future. The past is so beautiful, like I said, for us to learn from. The present is amazing. There's a line from Kung Fu Panda where he says, open up the present because it is for the now, and just press up for the future. I've forgotten the exact words, but it's something amazing from that Kung Fu Panda, where he's being given perspective about the past, the present, and the future. And I think in looking at that, the next anthology, I'm just trying to address even my past. Like, for example, there's one poem that is called Places. Maybe since you have a better connection, you could read that for our audience. But Places talks about one getting down, getting off your high horse of whatever you've done in the past, because it's there. And it's in the past, and we are waiting for what else you are yet to give to us. And I talk about climbing mountains on that, to say sometimes to train to go up to Mount Kilimanjaro, you probably need to come down to the valleys and go up Mount Inyangani twice, so that you can build strength and stamina for the higher mountains. But the idea with experience that you have had, even the best and that we are seeing now. So we must embrace all that. Yeah. Embrace all that, even the nasty. I think sometimes we're even too afraid to share with people the times that we have been at our worst, particularly in our private spaces, because we are sometimes at our worst, and because we're always presenting this front of good things, those that are struggling are unable to come out. One of my favorite ministers in the Bible is Apostle Paul, who constantly says, I am that guy who used to kill people. I'm that murderer. I'm the chiefest of sinners, but look at what God has done with me. And I think many of us need to come out now and say, look at what God has done with me. And we tell those stories that sometimes we want to hide, because in those stories, that's where the breakthrough or the strength for another person who's struggling in that same area can come from.
Definitely, and I love the poem Places that you wrote, because you use mountains that are local and indigenous to us here in Zimbabwe. So you talk about Nyanga, you talk about going up and down the Vumba before you get to Nyanga. I really loved that, and anybody who's been there can relate if they read that poem. And I'll definitely read it before we close out later, because the way you call to life those images is through memory, and many of us have those memories, especially about the Eastern Highlands, the cold, the weather, but also the sense of majesty that you get when you're there, and how I think sometimes the environment makes you want to deal with things. Like you want to just get quiet sometimes and unpack some things and leave them, on the mountain. Basically, it's very mystical, very powerful. I love that poem Places. But I also agree with you about what you're saying. Like, it's time for us to start telling those stories, the things that used to hurt. But what I loved is what you said earlier when you were talking about Never Been 10, where it's also about processing. You've got to tell them at a time where you've had distance to get over it, so that you're not just putting more hurt out there, but it's actually something that helps people to kind of see their situation differently and be like, oh, okay, so, I can come out of this like this. And that is one of the things that has always struck me about you as an artist, is that every picture, I've ever seen of you, every performance I've ever seen of you, arms wide open and smiling face. And then I pick up these two books and I start reading them and I'm like, whoa, she's been through so much. But still, in spite of it all, arms wide open and smiling face. And even after having the accident and having to go through the prison experience, still come out, arms wide open and smiling faces. What is that about? How can you maintain that?
I think first and foremost, I will really glory to God, and my faith has been a pillar in helping me walk and have people discipling you and helping you process. And when you look at the chief faith, Jesus, and you see what drama happened around his life, and he's hanging on that cross and he's saying, forgive them, they don't know what they're doing. You're like, what? I mean, I want to be like that. But I think for me, one of the statements that has helped me is that whenever we don't find purpose, our problems, we will think that. But when purpose, we will discover that Paul says that so that we will comfort you with the comfort that we've been comforted by. So we need to go through certain things so that when other people come and we're like, no, don't worry, you will make it, because God is so amazing that he's the God of generations, and he's a great cloud of witnesses who've walked ahead of us, who are cheering us on and saying, come on, Dudu, run, run, run. Somebody has done that for me. I must stand also at the end of my finish line and do the same for somebody else. Say, come. Said we have been to crush each other, you know. It's just like you pull another person down instead of building them up. So for me, the smile is I love cartoons, by the way. Penguins, smile and wave. of Madagascar, just smile and wave. It is not, to be honest with you, it is not out of a place of pretense. It is from a place of understanding. I think for me, I realize that I'm not here on earth for myself. I'm here and God has packaged me in a certain way to be able to handle things and to see the world for myself, but for many others that are coming, for my children, many other people who are benefiting from my children are not only, I don't mean my immediate logical children, but I'm talking about even saints, the whole body of Christ, who now call me mother. I stand in front of them and minister, you know, on a weekly basis. So we live life not for ourselves. And I know even you are doing this not because you want to just get your own satisfaction, but because you know that there's some that or somebody else that needs to benefit and for time immemorial. So that's it. That's how I live. I'm here for others, not just for myself.
But it looks good on you, Dudu. It looks good on you, and it looks and not only does it look good on you, you also imbue a sense of rest, and the kind of rest that comes with an acceptance and a contentment, which I find very, 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 very attractive, very pleasant. And I think that this is the thing we've all been looking for, especially since the pandemic began. Rest from anxiety, rest from wondering what next, how. Even if I look at your attitude to this interview, which, the network being intermittent and choppy there, when we kicked off, you just did it with a smile, and you did it with and from a place of rest and just a surrender that what will be will be. And it's very hard for us to do that in our instant coffee generation, rapid everything now thing. But it makes for pleasant time and a pleasant atmosphere. So thank you very much for just teaching us that in just how you are, without even saying words. Very, very a powerful message in terms of how to respond to situations that are out of our control. Very, very amazing. And I suppose it's because you live your life in the eye of the storm, right? You can't control when you live in the public eye. So many people have opinions, and so many people think they know your story, and they think they know your motivations, and you can't control that. And I think for some people, it can easily eat them up inside, never being able to defend, never being able to explain. But if you still meet us with a smile, you still create more gifts. You still are processing things and sharing them, and you're giving them freely. Very, very amazing.
Thank you. There is my pastor once said to me, "You are in control of 90% of your life because you are the one who gets to respond to what 10% of things could be out of your control, accidents, people who die and stuff, but still you have control in that you will choose how to respond to things." And I think that's the issue, that we have reacted to things than for us to respond and brace up and find the find the ways. I'm the one going through this, but why I had, past the stairs, what will I get behind that test? We want the glory, but want the drama that comes for the glory. And so I'm ready. I'm ready for the full, and and can only say thank you to God for that space.
Yeah. Well, I thank you, and I thank you for just being with us tonight and just sharing your just very glorious, radiant presence. We're about to wrap up just now, but there's just one more poem I want you to talk about before we wrap up, and that is, I just want to get the word right. Is it Pompelmo, the poem about marriage? So you prefaced this poem. Yes, you prefaced this poem talking about a trip that you made when you went to Italy. You went to this amazing, was it a restaurant or a juice bar, and you saw this. Yeah, and you saw this bottle of Pompelmo, and you were like, "This looks gorgeous. We must have it now." And you bought it, and you're a little bit like, "No, I don't know what we bought here." And then it sparked this really incredible poem about oranges and grapefruits and how we must have certain things. And then we're like, "No, can I take it back?" And you're like, "No, I can't." And a picture of marriage. Tell me a little bit about that before we wrap up.
So like you said, we're in Italy, and we ordered this Pompelmo. The name is beautiful, looks good, everything is so well, and we didn't know it was grapefruit. And now when it was the meal was good. Oh, the taste was and it got me thinking about how sometimes people have gotten in marriages. I do marriage counseling, and there's been times in my own marriage where I've been thinking, I got an orange, but dude, you're just giving me Pompelmo there. It looks big and round, promising, and I know with when you meet this guy and he's got he's speaking right.
Unfortunately, the network just couldn't hold out for the rest of that. But basically, the poem basically just highlights the fact that sometimes you look at something and It's not what it seems. And the journey of marriage is then how you decide how to make peace with and to accept what it is that you can't, that is less than what you expected. So as we wrap up, I'm going to read out the poem Places that Dudu mentioned. It's from her second book, so you can consider yourselves getting a sneak peek. If you would like to get a copy of the first volume of Three Knot Cord, you can get in touch with Dudu Manhenga on any one of her Facebook pages, and she will arrange to if you are local in Harare, to meet with you. Just responding to the comments before we close out, Rita Matanda, no, not able to hear. Very sorry about that. Yeah, we are definitely having some network challenges here. But for the 10, 15, 20 minutes that we had Dudu with us, it was still high impact and power packed. So we thank her for that and for joining with us. Margie Beza, there's comfort in walking with someone who's been there and can relate. Definitely the comfort that Dudu was talking about. And, you know, we give thanks for her just being vulnerable with us and sharing that with us. So without further ado, I'm going to read the poem that Dudu left us with, and it's called Places. It's from volume 2, Past, Present, Future, Three Knot Cord. Dear places, places I have been to, your smells of victory are as fresh as the morning, the beautiful sense of the heights, aromas of bursting life, productive pollen, ravishing roses, blooming beauties, looming success. I inhale the scents, I call them to my mind. Today feels like Mount Nyanga. I wish I could go back. How the mind quickly forgets. It was quite a steep climb to get to those scented heights. Going back there is no success at all. Dear places, places I have been to, your odors of shame and shrewd, never welcome, stenches of dreaded valleys, smells of unreached goals, rotting limbs, dead flesh, dry bones, successful failure. I choke as I sniff, unintentionally so. These habitual gate crashes, they pass through my mind uninvited. This moment feels like Mount Vumba. I don't wish to go back there. How the mind quickly forgets. Before circling up Nyanga, you must climb Vumba twice. Dear places, places I am at, far from the glory of Vumba, further from the thrills of Nyanga, plains, common graves. I recall how eagles befriended me. They allowed me to watch their young. They knew me by name. Now they fear I could feast on their eggs. Shock. I go back to my friend Monkey. Teach me how to hang in there. Without a care. She knows me. Really does. How the mind quickly forgets. After climbing Vumba and circling up Inyanga, one must descend and practice for ascending Kilimanjaro. Dear places, places I am raring to go. I have bought my gear for Kilimanjaro. I am ready to conquer Everest. I remind my forgetful mind, before conquering Everest, you must ascend Kilimanjaro. Before ascending Kilimanjaro, you must circle up Inyanga. Before circling up Inyanga, you must climb Vumba twice. How the mind quickly forgets. In the plains, I ask my friend Monkey, how did you get here? The answer is simple. Slowly. Slowly walking through the valley of dry bones, carefully climbing up the man-made steps of the Vumba, courageously circling round the sacred contours of the Nyanga, confidently ascending up the steep dangers of Kilimanjaro, carefully conquering Everest. Then what? Dear places, places I might go to. And that is a sneak peek from Three Knot Cord. And we are so happy to have been able to share that with you because it's a book that's not yet out. But who knows, maybe it'll be something that'll come out before winter time. So thank you all for joining us, and thank you for all your patience and sticking with us through this live. We'll be back again next week, Wednesday. And here's to all the places that you are preparing to go slowly but surely. And we know that you will make it. So love and peace to you all. Good night.